We're interrupting our scheduled program to take you live to the campaign trail of election 2016.
Support your Liberal or National Party candidates both in the House of Representatives and in the Senate. A vote for any other party would be a vote for a return to the bad old days of a Labour-Green minority government, which would be bad for our economy, bad for business, bad for jobs and bad for our borders. Only the coalition has a clear national economic plan for jobs and growth, a plan to continue to secure the successful transition in our economy from resource investment-driven growth to broader drivers of growth in a strong and more diversified economy, with our ambitious innovation agenda to support start-up businesses, with our defence industry plan to support local high-end manufacturing, with our export trade deals to support exporting businesses across Australia, with our 10-year enterprise tax plan to boost investment, boost productivity, boost growth and over time increase real wages, with our crackdown on tax avoidance and a better targeting of tax concessions, and of course with increased funding for health, education and roads, which is guaranteed within our budget. Happy to take questions.
Labor says that they'll let journalists in detention camps in Manus Island. Would you?
Well, what Bill Shorten did yesterday is he was already crab walking away from our strong border protection policy framework. What a return to a Labour-Green minority government would mean would be weaker borders. When we came into government, we had to sort out Labour's mess at our borders. We did, and of course our message to the Australian people is don't put that at risk. This is not the time to weaken our strong border protection policy framework. Well, our track record when it comes to border protection policy is very clear, and that includes clear disciplines in terms of how you manage certain aspects of our border protection policy framework. What Bill Shorten showed last night is that he doesn't have the strength or the discipline to ensure that our borders remain secure. I mean, you've got to remember more than 30 Labor members and candidates in this election have come out in open defiance against Australia's strong border protection policy framework. Yesterday, the Greens confirmed that they had done a deal, that Labor had done a deal with the Greens on preferences in 139 seats. The Greens were very clear on their price to support any future Shorten Labor government, and that would be weaker border protection policies, and that is clearly not what Australia needs.
How does letting journalists in equate to weaker border policy?
Well, our track record when it comes to border protection is very clear, and it includes certain operational disciplines which have been central to our success in keeping our borders secure. And we stand by our record, and we are committed to our strong border protection policies into the future. Bill Shorten is not. Our track record is there for all to see. Under Labor, more than 50,000 people arrived here illegally on hundreds and hundreds of boats that arrived here illegally. Clearly, the efforts of the coalition in government, sorting out the mess that Labor had made at our borders, has clearly been successful. You got to remember, in the lead up, you see, Bill Shorten has been trying to talk tough in the lead up to this election, the same way as Kevin Rudd talked tough in the lead up to the 2007 election. And as soon as Kevin Rudd was elected in 2007, he made decisions that put the people smugglers back into business. Our message to the Australian people is if you vote for Bill Shorten, like Kevin Rudd, he would put the people smugglers back into business. Only the coalition remains absolutely and totally committed to the strong border protection policies that we've put in place.
But journalists aren't steering the boats. What is wrong with journalists going to see the camps?
Again, as I've said on a number of occasions now.
I'm asking a straight question. Why can't journalists go to the camps?
And as I've said very clearly, operational discipline when it comes to our border protection framework has been a central and important part of our success. We are not in the business to share intelligence with people smugglers. Bill Shorten can crab walk away if he wants from the strong and successful and proven border protection policies of the coalition government. That is not our approach. What we say to the Australian people, though, is be very mindful of what a Shorten Labor Green minority government would do. They would walk away from the strong and effective border protection policies that we've put in place over the last 3 years.
It's going to make you very unpopular. Well, that policy will make you very unpopular with the journalists of the past couple of years not being allowed into those particular camps. You can understand why Bill Shorten will be wanting to have journalists to be active into those camps and
well, I mean, I let Bill Shorten talk for himself as he did last night, and what he made clear last night is that he's not committed to strong border protection policies. Clearly, the operational discipline that we displayed over the last 2.5, 3 years was a central part of our success in stopping the boats. That is. Well, I mean, our job is to keep Australia safe and secure, and that is the job that we're doing on behalf of the Australian people.
Minister, isn't there an argument that if you allow journalists into the camps to report on the conditions, that it would discourage potential customers of people smugglers?
What Bill Shorten did again yesterday was crab walk away from our strong border protection policies. And, I mean, if you can ask me the same question in different ways several times over, the answer is the same. The coalition remains committed to the proven and strong and successful border protection policies that we've put in place over the last 3 or so years. Bill Shorten is not. Bill Shorten is dealing with more than 30 people in his own caucus. He's dealing with more than 30 Labor members and candidates that are in open defiance against our strong and proven border protection policies. The Greens, with whom he's done a deal on preferences in 139 out of 150 seats, want him to weaken our border protection policies. Only the coalition is committed to a continuation of the proven, successful border protection policies that we have implemented over the last 3 years.
So do you think that the freedom of the press is an important concept in Australian democracy?
Well, indeed it is, but in relation to our border protection framework, there are certain operational disciplines that were central to the success of our border protection policies, and obviously, our track record is there for all to see.
But you can't explain how it's central. You can't explain how keeping journalists off the islands helps.
You might not agree with my explanation, but the explanation is very clear, and that is that operational discipline, when it comes to managing our border protection framework, has been central to our success, and that includes not providing a running commentary on all aspects related to our border protection policy framework, and that is the approach that has been successful, and that is the approach that we are committed to.
Just on another issue, I just want references. We've got the Great Polling open today, some tensions, the false tensions in the Liberal camps and the National camps about the preference deal done with Labor. Is there any chance of compromise or changing that preference deal with Labor in regards to that handful of national seats?
Well, I completely reject the premise of the question. I mean, obviously, Labor Party preferences are a matter for the Labor Party. As far as the coalition is concerned, we are a strong and united team focused on implementing our plan for jobs and growth. We are going into this campaign saying to the Australian people that we would like to continue to implement our plan for jobs and growth, a plan which is already starting to show results. Economic growth today is stronger than it was when we came into government. When we came into government, growth over the previous 12 months was running at about 2%. It's now running at about 3.1%. Employment growth is stronger. The unemployment rate is below where it had previously been anticipated, and the budget is now on a credible path back to surplus. And the Liberal National Party coalition has been a successful team over the last 3 years, and we would like to continue the work that we've done in government and continue to put Australia on the strongest possible economic foundation for the future.
There have got reports of some volunteers in Melbourne for the Liberal Party refusing to hand out how to vote.
Well, I'm not aware of what, I'm not aware how volunteers in Melbourne relate to events that you were describing in Western Australia, but so I'll...
No, I was not talking about Western Australia. We're talking about
That was your question.
Murray, for instance, seat of Murray.
Yeah.
The seat of Murray in Victoria, for instance, where there's a deal for Labor to preference the Liberal Party over the Nationals.
Well,
To retain that seat, there's tensions within the party.
Well, as I've already said to you, I don't accept the premise of your question at all. Labour Party preferences are a matter for the Labour Party, and so if you've got questions about Labour Party preferences, you really ought to direct them to the Labour Party.
There was an LNP fundraiser planned tonight in the Brisbane seat of Griffith with Tony Abbott that was cancelled. Why was that? Is the party embarrassed about Tony Abbott?
Tony Abbott has been campaigning for the re-election of the Turnbull government right around Australia, including right across Queensland. I'm not aware of the specific circumstances of the event tonight, but let me be very clear. Tony Abbott has been a very active and a very welcome campaigner for our re-election right across Australia, including and in particular in Queensland.
Labor's proposing 10,000 places in a pre-apprenticeship training program. Is that a better way to give young people real skills than the government's half internship program?
Well, with Labor, don't look at what they say, look at what they do. And when they were last in government, they cut $1.2 billion out of a relevant apprenticeship support program. Now, I mean, in this election, Bill Shorten every single day is making unfunded spending promise after unfunded spending promise. Last week, he had to finally fess up that under Labor, the deficits will be bigger than under the coalition, and he then wants us to believe that miraculously, following some sort of shortonomics approach, that after 4 years of bigger deficits, in year 5 they'll be back in surplus. But the truth is that Labor cannot be trusted on any of the promises they make in this campaign. Unfunded spending promises before an election cannot be paid for after the election. And if you look at Labor's track record, last time Labor was in government, they cut $1.2 billion out of this sort of program.
Minister, do you expect the WA Premier Colin Burnett to be campaigning with the Prime Minister today in WA?
Absolutely.
Why is that given this popularity?
Well, the Turnbull government has worked very well with the Barnett government for the benefit of the people of Western Australia, and indeed, as we have worked well together with all of the state and territory leaders in the national interest. Obviously we will be campaigning in Western Australia with the state leader of the Liberal Party.
Why do you think there's been so much interest from both the Labor Party and the Liberal Party about seats?
The Labor Party has a very bad track record when it comes to Western Australia. Last time they were in government, they gave West Australians the anti-WA mining tax. They gave us the carbon tax, all things that were bad for Western Australia's economic success. You would be aware, of course, that Labor does not have a single incumbent member of Parliament recontesting this election. They've all voted with their feet. They've all voted with their feet. They've all walked away. Labor does not have a single incumbent seat in the House of Representatives in Western Australia right now. We are in there, obviously, in Western Australia, as we are right across Australia, working to win the trust of a majority of West Australians in Western Australia and a majority of Australians in a majority of seats. Our message to the people of Western Australia, with the state of Western Australia on the front line of our economy in transition, is that we have the plan to successfully manage the transition of our economy from record resource investment driven growth to broader drivers of growth in a strong and more diversified economy. And Western Australia, more than any other state economy, of course, needs us to continue to implement that plan.
If Labor has such a poor track record, why do the Liberal Party believe that the Labor Party could be up to 3 seats, 3 additional seats?
Well,
regardless of how they're going?
Well, I've got no idea where you get that sort of information from. That is certainly not a proposition that I would support. Well, it's good to know that you seem to know what the people of Western Australia will decide at the next election. I would put it to you that the election is on the 2nd of July, and that Labor right now in Western Australia holds 3 out of 16 seats. 3 out of 16 seats, and none of these 3 incumbents are recontesting the election with Bill Shorten as leader. And obviously the Liberal Party in Western Australia is working very hard to win the trust of the people of Western Australia again, so that we can continue to implement our plan for jobs and growth, because that is in particular what the great state of Western Australia needs right now. They certainly don't need a return to the bad old days of a Labor Green government where a Shorten-led minority government would pursue their anti-business, anti-success, anti-investment, anti-jobs and growth and weaker border agenda. People in Western Australia understand about the risks of a Labor Green government. Last time when Labor was in government, we had illegal boats arrive as far south as Geraldton, and you know, people in Western Australia remember that very, very well.
In Higgins, President Clear Dwyer could be in trouble. The Greens and the Unions are throwing everything they can into that seat. Can she expect more help from the Liberal Party there now? And is she bearing the brunt for a poorly thought out superannuation changes?
Kelly O'Dwyer is an outstanding Member of Parliament, and she is an outstanding member of the Turnbull coalition team. And our message to the people of Higgins, as the same as our message to people in all seats around Australia, is if you want a continuation of stable government, a continuation of a stable government implementing our National Economic Plan for Jobs and Growth, then support Kelly O'Dwyer in Higgins and support our Liberal National Party candidates in all seats around Australia, in all House of Representatives seats and indeed in the Senate. Thank you.